guys, what is going on at 170 pounds? I'm not satisfied. I'm not satisfied anywhere that we go. This was crystal clear to all of us. Belal had dibs. The end. And it's not as though a single person, a single principle in this equation, right? It takes three. You get the red corner, the blue corner, the promotion. That's it. That is it. Of those three, everybody had already agreed. And I don't mean that next is going to be Belal. Everybody agreed that Belal was rightful to be next. That was already done. That's what happened when they call and ask Belal to be a backup fighter. Imagine the circumstance for Muhammad. He's going to come in on short notice. He's not going to have all his fans and friends. You think his mom and everybody bought tickets and they flew out there because he just might be going to do. I had the most supportive mother in the world. Believe me, she wasn't coming on a might. Okay, my mother probably would have come, but you still understand my point. This is not an ideal situation. This is not what he dreamed about since he was a little boy and started sacrificing everything to go into the sport. And he still said yes. Oh, and by the way, had that have happened, it most likely would have happened because somebody missed weight, which means on 24 hours notice, he was willing to fight either Colby or Leon. He would find out 24 hours before he has to leave that locker room with short pants and a mouthpiece. Like, that is a colossally courageous thing to do. And he didn't ask for it. They called him. They looked at the roster. They looked at who had the right. They looked at who made sense. They looked at the rankings. And they made their decision. And they made the right one. They called him. He said yes. So, when Leon and Colby are aware of this, they're also aware that if anything should happen to my opponent on less than 24 hours notice, I'm going to be fighting Muhammad. And nobody said a word. Nobody said a word negatively or in resistance to that concept. Which is therefore why I conclude that the A, the B, and the promotion have all already agreed. So the moment the contest ends between Colby and Leon, because you've always got one thing out there. You always have one thing that could stop the number one contender from getting his opportunity. It's the great unforeseen, but it's the match itself. We just saw this tested. I'll give you a different example. Israel Adesanya goes on home territory against a last-minute replacement and the only contender that he ever faced that wasn't in the top 5. He was a 6-1 favorite. 3-1 represents domination. By you, the audience, you're representing this is not going to be close. 4-1 represents finish. 5-1 all but guarantees it. Sean was a 6-1 dog. So the one thing when Duplessis, by example, is getting ready to compete next, the one thing that nobody could take into consideration or ever spoke about is, well, what happens if the actual fight generates something where a rematch of the fight is the correct remedy? And that's exactly what happened. In this case, it was just an upset. But that was such a surprise. It didn't matter that it was a dominant upset. It didn't matter. This is an upset. Get them back in there. And that's what they tried to do. They agree with me. They wanted to redo Izzy and Strickland. When that didn't come about, that's where you insert Duplessis. So, but I bring that to you just to make sure that I've covered every single base, every single possible base. Like, that's the one thing that Muhammad might have to give a consideration to. Right? Who are the knuckleheads? The guy that was pretending, the guy that I'm in the sand. Who with Uncle Liev and Johnny. Right? When you have something weird like, okay, you got to just run it back. So that's the one thing that could throw Muhammad off. That didn't happen. So now we have nothing left to talk about. But we are still talking. And Leon had brought a question forward on social media yesterday. He told Muhammad, you need to figure out why the UFC hates you. And it would certainly seem that way. I mean, in all fairness, it would seem that way. I can just tell you, having worked with them for 18 years, they don't. Without ever asking Dana, I can tell you he does not. He loves having guys like that. He loves guys with a great attitude. He loves having a guy that he can call and go get in a ring. And he did that. Muhammad did that. This was with Gilbert Burns. He loves that he can call a guy on 8 days' notice, say, hey, man, can you get licensed? Can you make weight? Can you get to Vegas? And by the way, are you willing to go in to a 5-round situation with the baddest dudes on God's earth? And I'm not even going to tell you which one until the day before. Right? And Muhammad said yes. Dana loves guys like that. So it's not a matter of anybody being irritated with Belal, and it's not even anybody questioning if it makes sense to go with Belal. We, the community, have created a dialogue that, well, you got to look at Rakhmonov. Maybe Rakhmonov stole his spot. We created that. That has never been supported by anybody in a decision-making capacity. Ever. So what in the hell are we missing? What in the hell are we missing? And you might remember there was a time, it was a long, long time ago, it was called 3 weeks. There was a time 3 weeks ago when Dana White spoke about UFC 300. And when he was speaking about it, he promised a super fight. And he spoke on the card and said, we have 11 fights that night. The very first one that opens the show at 3:30 Pacific Standard Time, you are not going to believe is opening a show. It will be main event worthy. This is all that he said. He doesn't say anything else. And I've been asked about that on social media repeatedly, but I thought nothing of it. I've never answered the question. Many of you ever DM me, I get back to you every single day. Never go to bed without returning all my DMs. I've never answered that one, though. And you want to know why? Because I didn't hold him to it. I mean, I didn't hold him to anything literal there. You have a manner of speaking. You have a figure of speech. What's a super fight? He said, I'm going to do a super fight. What's a super fight? Sounds like they're all going to be super fight, right? That's what I held it to. But as time has gone by, and I continue to get asked the question, you're starting to win me over. You're starting to make me think, no, he's got a super fight. And a super fight and a title fight. And a super fight isn't just it's going to be a super fight. He doesn't talk that way. He doesn't ever use the word super fight, as a matter of fact. This would be the first time that he's ever used the term super fight that I'm aware of. And I can go way back to the SEG days, but super fight did mean something. It meant to hell with weight classes. To hell with rankings. That's what it meant. I'm going to bring you the fight. The fight you've all wanted. The fight you thought you couldn't get because of weight classes, because of different barriers, because of different protocols. Is that what Dana's talking about? Because if he is, and he is specifically talking about different weight classes that you could not get together on a regular circumstance and that he would not book on a regular circumstance, there is still one guy that's called out Leon. And we didn't give it a lot of attention because we didn't think it was possible. And it wasn't Rakhmonov, even though we like to say it's between Belal and Rakhmonov. We created that. Rakhmonov never called him out. Do you know who that guy is? Are you thinking? That guy is named Islam Makhachev. That's the other guy. We inserted Rakhmonov. Nobody else, including Rakhmonov. There's one other guy that is inserted in this conversation. There's one other guy that has brought himself up. There's one other guy that said, I would like the same job that that guy would like. And you don't ever get hired for anything if you don't show up to the interview. There's one other guy in the waiting room. There's only one guy. And that's Islam. And we were promised a super fight. I don't know what that means. I didn't hold him to it when he said it. I know what it meant in the SCG days. That's also the last time we've ever used the term. I don't think the UFC hates Belal. I don't think anybody questions who the number one contender is. I think the fact that he was called as a backup shows everybody knows who the guy is. But even the guy has to wait if the GOAT shows up out of nowhere wanting the same job. So it does certainly appear that Belal Muhammad has competition. I'm here to let you know, we decided that competition was Rakhmonov. There is a guy. There is a guy who's called out Leon, and we've all dismissed it. And now you know who it is. The guy that Belal is in competition with is none other than Islam.